have to play an Atari game. What? I didn't think the day would come where I would have to look at something like this. Ugh. Knowing the internet, this game's probably absolutely horrifying. Okay, haunted house. This is probably gonna be the scariest game I've ever played. Yes, that's right. It's the spooky season where skeletons are out, everything's scary, and this game exists. But you know what I need? I need some Halloween decorations, so why don't I go get some of those? I had to grab bananas because the store is out of pumpkins. For some reason, teenagers just really love to smash pumpkins, which is kind of disgusting. So what now? Why don't we talk about Haunted House for the Atari 2600? This is probably going to be a really good experience. I hope. Do you guys remember the Atari? Though not the first video game console, it was the first to make a big impact due to it being able to play cartridges. It also came with these controllers that really suck. I feel bad for the people who accidentally sat on this. It started to hit it big with the release of Space Invaders, which was an amazing port for the time. But because the console started getting shallow ports and horrible shovelware games, it eventually led to the video game crash of '82, which nearly killed video games as a whole, until Nintendo stepped in and brought them back to their popularity with the NES. Putting all that aside, Haunted House is an Atari 2600 survival horror game, and you may be wondering, how is this survival horror? You play as eyes! Well, to put it into perspective, you gotta remember that this game came out in 1981 on a system that could barely handle Pac-Man. So it was pretty revolutionary for its time, since it was an Atari game that took place on more than one screen and had pretty engaging gameplay. So with that put aside, let's see what this game is all about. The game boots up to eyes. Why'd you cut to me? What am I supposed to say? There's nothing funny to joke about here. Since this is an Atari game, I'll put the image in your head. This game takes place in a haunted mansion and your goal is to get the hell out of there. Now the game plays on the Atari, so use the Atari controller. But if you want to be a complete loony, you can use the Sega Genesis controller. You play in a top-down angle and this game controls in 4 directions, which is kinda off-putting at first because the last top-down game I played was Earthbound, and that controlled with 8 directions. But once you get used to it, the game actually controls pretty good. The first thing you're gonna notice, other than the big bulging Scooby-Doo-like eyes on the screen, is that you can't see, so you have to hit the button on the controller to turn on a light that still barely helps you. Now this game is literally a maze. All you do is wander around until you finish the game. But watch out! There's also monsters that are out to spook you. Oh my god, a ghost! I think that these are supposed to be the jump scares of the game, but they just never got me. I'm pretty sure that one pixel on the screen probably gave those kids nightmares for weeks. But it didn't age well, I guess. So with all that out of the way, I think that's all we gotta talk about today. Overall, it didn't age that well, but it still exists, for God's sake. And it kind of kick-started a genre. Resident Evil didn't start it, a Haunted House started it. So why don't I go and turn my power back on? Because it looks like it just went out on me earlier, so I gotta go and do that. Yes, sir. Okay. You know what? Maybe I should just turn the lights back on. Okay, there we go. Power's back up. That's pretty good. So what now? So now that the power's back on, maybe I should discuss if there's another Haunted House game. The problem is, I don't have this one, so that means I have to emulate it. So why don't we dive deep into, I think it's called Return to Haunted House. I can't remember, it was just Haunted House 2. But other than that, let's check out what this game's all about. Here's an oddity. Haunted House 2 came out on the Atari Flashback 2, which was a retro throwback console made by Games. It's pretty odd to hear that a sequel to a really old game came out on something like this. I'm just gonna say this game came out in 2005 because there's legit nothing about the game I could find online. I heard it's a homebrew game that became official or something, but that's basically all the info I have on it. All that aside, Return to Haunted House is another maze game for the Atari that is built on the same engine Adventure was built on. So instead of you playing as eyes, you play as a simple square, which makes me sad. The game is basically just more of the original Haunted House, which isn't really a bad thing because I do enjoy the first. It's a bit all over the place and confusing, but it's still pretty good for an Atari game. Return to Haunted House actually had a moment where it did scare me. It was when the ghost flew out of nowhere, but keep in mind I had my TV blasting. Now, what you do in this game is legitimately the exact same as the original game. You explore a maze, find a key, find the place where the key is, and keep on doing that until the experience is over. If I'm being honest, the game control is bad compared to the original, but at the same time I can forgive it since it was an Atari homebrew game. It works as a sequel, but I'm surprised there's basically nothing about it online. And I may be wondering, why haven't I talked about Haunted House on the Wii? Well, it's because I legitimately have no way to play it right now, and from looking at footage, it just looks horrible. So in conclusion, a pretty good duology of games. Could be a bit improved, but why would you improve on them since they were made nearly 40 years ago? And yes, I lost my collection of bananas because a teenager stole the bananas and smashed those. And now I'm trying to think of how they did that. So basically, I think that these are a pretty good collection. And I would really like to see if they could get another stab at the game. But not the Wii version, because the Wii version looks bad. And now I'm gonna go and do some things, because I do that at the end of every video. So what game to talk about next? Sonic and the Secret Rings? Yeah, no, Black Knight? No, Sonic and me. Wait, what's this? No. No, it can't be. No!